Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see, today's video is going to be about the relatively new Dmitry Pozharsky, which was a part of the North Pole mission chain event. If you didn't pick this up, you really didn't miss anything. Um, if you are a collector and uh, you feel a little unhappy that you didn't get it, well, I guess I can understand that. But from a gameplay standpoint, I found this ship to be rather underwhelming. You can see that you can see that right there on the screen. The main battery consists of 152s. You've got 12 of them. You got four turrets, three barrels in each turret, and you've got a nice firing range. I can tell you the base numbers for the ship. Rotation speed on the turrets, 180-degree turn time, 25 seconds. Base range, 18.1 kilometers. Max dispersion, 157 meters. All of that phenomenal. The maximum AP shell damage that shows in the WoW's wiki is 3000 HP. Initial AP shell velocity 950 meters per second. Now, if you didn't know, all you have on this ship are these AP shells. You don't have HE, so you don't really have the ability to do much in the way of damage over time like you would in most of the Russian cruiser line using your HE shells. And I found this ship to be very underwhelming in terms of its damage output. It does have torpedoes. They've got a 4 kilometer range, and they hit reasonably hard. And you got a lot of them. You got two racks, five torpedoes in each rack, and they do 14,400. But if you get close enough to use these torpedoes, you're probably on your way back to port within the next 10 to 30 seconds. I mean, if you've played Russian cruisers at all, you know that that's generally going to be true. There will be exceptions, of course, but torpedoes really aren't going to come into play. Now, you might think, well, this ship has hydro, so and it has smoke, so it should, in some ways, be reminiscent of the Mikhail Kutuzov. It's not, because you can't smoke up and Daka HE shells to get things burning the same way that you can with the Kutuzov. So you're kind of left with these AP shells that don't seem to have all that great of a penetration value, at least in my experience. And I found it very difficult to do much damage with, especially when up tiered. Now you can see the replay that I have over here. It is one of the games I was up tiered in, and it's really tough. I mean, even against uh, a light cruiser, I was having a really hard time doing damage at any kind of range. So I'll just go through the kind of the particulars of the ship. Let me get rid of the captain here or the commander for just a minute. Um, well, you know what? Instead of doing that, I'll just go through what I've got. I used grease the gears to get the turret traverse a little better. Consumables specialist, consumables enhancement, and adrenaline rush. Superintendent, survivability expert. You've only got 40,000 HP. I thought, another 10% of HP might come in handy. AA defense and ASW expert, and concealment expert. Now, I make no claims that this is the best commander build for this ship. This is just what, in the moment, I decided, I'm going to use this build and see what happens. And I, I was so thoroughly unimpressed with the ship that I didn't really experiment with commander builds. So your mileage may vary. So let's get back to here. As I mentioned, hydro, and it's decent hydro. The action time now, of course, with the commander is 121 seconds. Cooldown time 108 seconds to smoke. The dispersion time 40 seconds. Cooldown time 63. So if you're in a pinch, you can use this to some effect. The issue again is trying to do damage with these guns, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I get into the replay, and I'm going to kind of speed through the replay because there's not a, now, as most Russian ships are, the ship is beautiful. The art department did a really nice job. I think it's a gorgeous ship. You've got two different camos that you can use, right? There's this one as well, which is also very nice. And okay, so let me get into the actual replay. So you can see the Wooster over here, and I haven't done much. I've really just been trying to avoid getting blapped. in the early going. This was one of the, if not the first game that I played in it. And I'm starting to get some shots on the Worcester, and I know I'm speeding through this. But, I put out 21 shots, did 7,300 damage, which really isn't that much. So, we'll just continue on our way here. And even when I had the Worcester's broadside, I found it almost impossible to do any kind of significant damage. Pretty long hang time, despite the initial velocity. And then the Worcester was riding the map edge, making it a little bit more difficult to track. So I'm just going to fast forward here because this game was thoroughly unimpressive. But I wanted to demonstrate at least a little bit and give you some information about it. I did manage one good shot on the Jutland just prior to the torpedo taking him out, but still, 17,000 damage on 43 shots. Now, I stayed in position to be able to try and get an airstrike on that guy, but the Fletcher ran over him and finished him off before I could do that. And then I'm just trying to reposition center because I knew Fletcher on 4501 were going to take the Charlie cap. And this game really doesn't change in terms of who's going to win it from this point forward, halfway through. But here I can show you that, that the shells are going to be in the air for a long time when they're at max range. And even a De Grossa was able to avoid a lot of the shots. And I don't feel like my shots were terrible. I mean, they weren't great, of course, but 3 pens, 1 non-pen, 1 torpedo protection, and 5 ricochets. And I'm just making use of the island here. I have to keep an eye on these guys down here because I don't want to get detected. But for now, I can just use this island. And you'll see that there are a lot of non-pens. Now, as De Grossa turns, I'm able to get a little bit more trying to hit the superstructure of the ship. So you got roughly 4,500 damage there. Another, a little bit, 2,100 or so here. But 68 shells on target, 28,000 damage. It was, when I say thoroughly underwhelming, that's an accurate statement. And when you're bottom tier in this thing, you can't avoid big shells unless you just stay out of sight. And the armor, which I'll get back to here in a minute, I'll show you the armor, it's really about what you'd expect. Basically, the entire remaining green team's putting shells on De Grossa. He doesn't really have a chance at this point.
Постановка дымов завершена.
A lot of the shells that you saw were landing short. I don't know if that's that bug that's been around for a little while. It doesn't seem like that was ending well, or whether the Sigma on the ship is just terrible. To be honest, I haven't even looked. But at this point, 84 shells on target, 28,802 damage. And at this point, I'm going to pop the Hydro, get over here and try and help the Missouri to spot incoming torpedoes from the U-190 that's been chasing him across the map. Not really anything spectacular here. I do manage to get the airstrike to finish him off. Really no big deal, but you can see, so I'm at 28.8 right now in terms of damage. And basically added 10% more.
Торпеды справа по борту.
Finishing off a sub with an airstrike. Kind of pathetic, if I'm being honest. Now, was my gameplay phenomenal? No. Could I have done a better job? Yeah, of course. I think that's true in most games of most players. But I still stand by my statement that this ship is not really a ship that's going to deal out a lot of damage, except in some very specific situations that maybe I just didn't encounter. So we get back to the... There you can see the end there. We get back to here. I wanted to show you the armor layout before I end this. So 25 millimeters up front, 25 millimeters in the rear, If you're running away, you're going to get citadeled like crazy. If you're nose in, you're going to get citadeled like crazy. All right. 27 millimeters. Could you possibly bounce some shells? If they're coming in basically entirely flat, maybe. But if you're facing tier 10 ships, everything's going to go right through. The citadel, you can see it sits above the water line. Not a lot, but a little bit, and it's very big. Right? It's it's most of the ship. It's a big citadel. So you have to use positioning. You have to be aware of the direction that incoming shells are coming from. I think in most cases, if you're sitting like this to someone, or like this to someone, you're just going to eat massive damage. If you angle a little bit, maybe something like that, then maybe you have a chance of shells bouncing along the side here. Otherwise, you're just going to get smashed. And, that happened to me on more than one occasion, even when I felt like my positioning was decent. And, of course, it doesn't take long for the player base to realize, hey, this is a new squishy free Citadel ship. So if you get detected and you're playing this ship, don't be at all surprised if everybody and their brothers start targeting you. Well, I think that's probably enough about this ship for now. I hope that you found this informative and that you enjoyed it. If you did, if you haven't already, if you'd like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Maybe consider pointing your friends and fellow players my way. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.